Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Respected Chair Ansari sir and our dignitaries, my dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The topic I am discussing in front of you is early Muslim settlement in Kayalpattanam and its socio-religious connection with Kerala, a historical inquiry. So, my presentation has four divisions. Excuse me. My presentation has five parts. So first is introduction, and the second one is I am talking about early Muslim settlement in Kayalpattanam as well as in Kerala seashore. And the third part is the factors, socio-religious factors which contributed towards the growth of Muslim community in that particular regions, and it's their early links to Kerala Muslim community. And final is the conclusion. So before I am starting my presentation, I would like to tell you some just reservation. First of all, it is not the complete or final study about my research. It is the starting point. I have only reached at the starting point. So I am still in the process of researching on this topic. Secondly, before I am coming to the presentation, I would like to share with you my own experience or my own account about this topic. Or you may say that why I am interested to this topic. So this is the first thing. From that connection, inshallah, I am going to the history. So here I can say that I am beginning with the present history to the old history. So my father, he was a imam, a khatib in a renowned mosque in Kerala, Ernakulam, Cochin, and he was serving as the imam for a period of 42 years in a mosque, Broadway Juma Masjid. So during the last time of he resigned from his job in 2014. And at the time of his resignation, he was started to thinking about his past, his history, his forefathers, about his forefathers, and what is the family background, what is the origin of his family. So at that moment, he started to inquiring about the history of his family. So he knows his forefather, his grandfather, and the immediate generation before him. But after that, the old generation, he was not aware of them. So he was not about which family belongs to his history. So he started inquiring. So fortunately, what is interesting to note that finally we came to reach into the conclusion: our forefathers, our ancestors are coming from Kayalpattanam. So it was, it was 400 or 500 years back. Although we do not know the exact date of their migration from Kayalpattanam to Kerala provinces, near Ernakulam provinces. So we came to conclude that our ancestors and our forefathers belongs to the family of Kayalpattanam. So from this awareness, from this point, I started my inquiry of my research. So he is the family. His family was a religious family, religious teachers. His father, my grandfather, belongs involved in the activities, religious activities, and something related to the teaching profession. And he was my grandfather was also an imam and khatib in a mosque in a local area. So this is my history. From this history, I started my research. So here we can see that I would like to share with you some more points about my family. That my grandfathers and their ancestors, they belongs to this Mullah family, the Labbais family. So what they are doing, they were preaching in the initial stage of it was 50 about more than 50 years back. So he was teaching. They were teaching the primary, children. Their teaching was concentrated, restricted in the primary religious Sundays. At that time, the madrasa system was not institutionalized. So the madrasa system was going on within their house premise. So the students from different parts of the area, they would come to their home, and it is not only that my grandfather, but my grandmother as well, she was also teaching the students. So it does not mean that they are big scholars or they are big religious scholars. Their knowledge and their teaching profession were restricted only in the Quran recitation and such kind of things. The primary and preliminary education, religious education. So in the next point, one more thing. So at that time, they have started their profession not as a way of getting the money, but they started their profession voluntarily without getting paid. So at that time, it was not the currency, or it was not receiving the money, but in turn of their services, they get some goods such as rice, coconut and tapioca, such kind of things. So they were also, in spite of having the religious title, in spite of having some titles, so in spite of having religious titles such as Maulavi and religious teachers, they were in under the poverty. So this is the background of my study. So when we come to the Kayalpattanam Muslims, so we can see that in the history, it is a very significant role. The Kayalpattanam Muslims had played very significant role in the southern Indian peninsula, southern Indian area. Okay, so when we look at the history, we can see that the early arrival of Muslims in Kayalpattanam, it was in the same time, it was in the same period of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it was in the 7th century itself the Muslims were landed in Kayalpattanam. So we can see that 633 AD. So this is the exact date of, and from different sources of historical records, we can see the same year. And the first settlers, the first in one days, the first people who came from Arabs, they were from Makkah and Medina, and they were at the same times they were religious scholars, or they were the preachers as well as the merchants. And it was assumed that it was in the time of the Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, while he was the Khalifa at that time. And so even in the writings of the Ptolemy, the name Kayalpattanam was referred, mentioned, but it was not in the same sense of Kayalpattanam, but Kayal. So when he wrote, it was Kayal, and it has been in the later period, the historians has identified that it was the same place. So there are some other arguments, some reference about the Tamil Nadu and their Muslims and their historical role. So there are some historians have clearly written about their role in the history of Muslim history. Okay, you go ahead. So when we come to the The next point I would like to emphasize here is that how the Muslim settlement, how the Muslims in that region, it is not only the Kayalpattanam and but also in Malabar region, how they emerged and how they developed into a very big society, how the communal formation was taking place at that time. So when we look at the history, we can see that there are many records that it is because of the good relationship between the Hindu rulers and the Muslim traders. So this was the main and this was the major reasons. That is why the Muslim could settle down in that area. So we can see that Pandya and Chola rulers at that time, it was the rulers, and even the Kerala was part of the Chola rulers before the advent of Portuguese. So it was the time of Chola rulers. So all these rulers, they welcomed the Muslim merchants to their area. So in order to flourish their economic growth, so it is their motives was not religious one, but it is only for the financial upliftment by the society. So okay. So when we come to the Calicut, we can see that the Zamorins, we can say Samudri as well. So rulers who ruled the Calicut regions. So they have also contributed towards the growth of Muslims in that region because of their liberal attitude. So they have contributed a lot of, they have supported a lot of Muslims to encourage the business in that area. So when we look at the history, we can see that that even the Zamorins, they have appointed some Qalis, and they have given the sovereign power for the Muslims to rule themselves in their religious matters. So if there is an issue, if there is a matter of conflict in between the Muslims, the Zamorins had given them the right to make the issue, the religious order among the Muslim people. And they have given a lot of money to build the mosque, and the historians like Suleiman Sir and Ansari Sir had already talked about that issues. So this is very important, that the Hindu rulers, their support and their contribution towards the growth of Muslim is very vital in developing and in growing the Muslim settlement, both this region. Okay. The second point that contributed the Muslim settlement into this area, that is, the first is, as I told you, that is the liberal attitude or their patronage of the Hindu rulers. And the second one is the Muslim preachers, their arrival. So the people who came from Arab nations, they were not only the merchants, they were not only the businessmen, but at the same time they were the preachers. So they have given the privileges to preach their religion, to behave and to share, to spread the message of Islam to the indigenous people. So this kind of their high contact and their the moral qualities which attracted the indigenous people to believe in Islam, to come to Islam, and finally the conversion process took place because of this quality of the preachers. Okay, and so one more important factor that I want to tell you, that the prevailing situation, the socio-economic conditions of the indigenous people at that time, which prompted the people to believe in Islam, to attracted to Islam, to convert to Islam, because in Islam all the men are equal. So the inequality and the injustice which prevailed in the social system at that time, it's because of the social stratification and the caste system, untouchability, such kind of social phenomenon also prompted the indigenous people to convert into Islam and attracted to Islam. Okay. So the another important factor that I want to emphasize, that the link of the Kayalpattanam Muslim to Kerala Muslims. So when we look at the history, we can see that it was, we cannot say that it was not only in a particular period of time the Kayalpattanam Muslim had migrated to our land, but in different course of time these people have migrated to our area. And we can see that some historians, they have referred that the Marakar, the family of Marakar. So the discussions about the origin of Marakar, it will come in the next presentation. Okay, inshallah. So, and Muraki family and Lebbais family. So the Lebbais family, so they are particularly their profession, they were engaged in the profession of teaching and religious activities, and they were performed, and they were acted as the mullahs. The mullah means, in Malayalam language we would say that mullaka means they have two professions. One is teaching the students, teaching the religious teachings to the primary students, and the second one is they would acted as what we call the muaddin, or the caller of the prayer. So at the time of, in the absence of imam, so they would acted as the imam as well at that time. So we can okay, go ahead. Okay, so I would like to conclude my words. You come to the conclusion. Okay, so I would like to conclude my points. Firstly, the Muslim settlement both in Kayalpattanam and Malabar was very peaceful infiltration to the indigenous people with the full patronage and support of Hindu rulers. And no one can deny that the Muslim presence in northern, so in southern area, it was very peaceful without any conflict with the indigenous people or rulers. It was not like the northern settlement of Muslim in northern area. The second point, the social condition, inequality, injustice prevailed in Indian society, which ultimately became instrumental towards the growth of Muslim settlement in both regions, Kayalpattanam and Kerala seashore. And it was not a collective, it was sometimes the migration which took place in the history, in the course of history. Sometimes it was collective migration, sometimes it was individual migration, sometimes it was the men were the only people who came to this region as a professors, as what we call as the preachers of Islam. And the Muraki family is one of the prominent family who have migrated from Kayalpattanam to Malabar. In the initial stages, they came to Kochi. Then after that, they migrated to some Malabar regions like Ponnani, and finally they migrated to the Kottakkal. It is also the part of in Malappuram presently. So the last point, the early roots of mullahs in Kochi areas go back to the Lebba families in Kayalpattanam. So so this is my conclusion, and I am telling you once again that this is not the final, because I need to collect many information regarding this subject, and inshallah I hope that the future research will be beneficial to complete my study. Thank you very much for your listening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.